The House is resumed. Second reading, Aquaculture Legislation Amendment Bill number 3. Dr Ashraf Chowdhury has the call. He has 7 minutes remaining.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Dr Chowdhury.
Thank you. Mr Speaker, when we adjourned early on, I was talking about aquaculture being an industry which, as compared with the rest of agriculture, dairy farming, meat, other industries, we haven't done very well in this country as compared with, for example, Australia, South Australia particularly, where agriculture is doing very well. And hopefully, with this bill, which we are supporting on this side of the House, that it will help promote this industry, which we are hoping in the next 10, 15 years will be worth about $1 billion industry. And, I hope that this bill will go some way to help promote aquaculture. But, Mr. Speaker, as we went through the submission process, we saw that a whole lot of people were opposed to a number of issues in this bill. And one of those people who had reservations was in relation to the regulatory power given to the Minister to change regional coastal plans without public input. And I think that's where we had a lot of submissions from customary fishers, with the recreational fishers, with the ordinary public, who were not happy because they thought here there's too much power. In fact, some of the submitters even said this is draconian power given to the Minister and undemocratic power for the Minister to be able to change regional coastal plan without any public input. And I think that's something that the Minister and the government should take a serious note, that this could be another problem going forward. When if public input is not there, then we could have the same problem as we had earlier. And also, this reflects, governments, just as they have done in Auckland Super City case and in Canterbury, it shows that this is some kind of dictatorial attitude towards doing things without proper public input. So, Speaker, the other key provision of this bill are that it removes requirements for the AMAs to be in place before getting the permits or given consents. So, particularly in that area as well, we had a lot of submissions which were opposed to the requirement for the AMAs. I must say, though, that when the requirement to have AMS, there's a aquaculture management areas establishment, we did have problems, and particularly at the regional council level, we had the problems that we were not able to do or establish many of those AMAs. And I'm pleased that this bill actually allows, not having the requirement to have AMAs prior to having consent for aquaculture. The other issue is in relation to the length of coastal consents, which is from 20 years to 35 years. The maximum limit given is 35 years, but minimum can be up down to 20 years. And that's I think, is appropriate for ensuring that we have a process which gives the investors the opportunity to invest money and hoping that they have good return over a long period. Also, in terms of relicensing, in terms of reconsenting, if you like, the process in this bill is simplified, and hopefully that will require less information requirement as if any of the entrepreneurs, any of the investors want to have a reconsenting, and then after the first initial consent, they'll have less information to provide to make sure that these consents are forthcoming without too much information. The other clause issue is regarding regulating powers for the Minister of Conservation to approve the use of an allocation tool by the regional councils for managing high and competing demands. And I think that's important as well, that the Minister has been given that, Minister of Conservation has been given this power. But again, there were a lot of submitters who were opposed to that, and particularly in relation to the powers of the Aquaculture Minister, Ministers of Fisheries, and this bill, particularly in relation to the powers of the Minister for Aquaculture, gives very broad powers to change, introduce or remove provisions relevant to the management of aquaculture in a regional coastal plan without a requirement to consult the community affected, and although he's required to consult the relevant regional council. Mr. Speaker, this particular clause was opposed 2-1 by the submitters, because they thought there's too much draconian power given to the minister to be able to change the requirement, the provision, and a lot of people, particularly the environmentalists and also the customary fishers and recreational fishers, they were all sort of opposed to this particular part. The other issue in this bill is relating to the Maori aquaculture. And this bill, I'm pleased to say, that it retains the core components of the aquaculture settlement relating to the Maori commercial aquaculture claims, and that 20% of the space remains. And also, the other issue was the UAE test. As been explained earlier by other speakers, is the undue adverse effect. And this bill retains the Fisheries Act requirement to assess whether the proposed aquaculture activity will have any UAE undue adverse effect on commercial, customary and recreational fisheries. So, Mr. Speaker, with those comments, can I suggest once again, we are going to support this bill, but I think there are a couple of areas, particularly the UAE test, and in relation to not having commitment from the people, is not very good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker.
Craig Foss.